welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. Got Katie Heindl coming up in just a minute or two. We talk a lot about the NBA All-Star starters that were announced, specifically the release of the player vote. We've tried to figure out which players maybe were more popular and unpopular than we thought among NBA players, drawing the conclusion from the player voting results. Last night, Thursday night in the NBA, the Knicks got a huge win over the Celtics. The Pistons whipped up on the Brooklyn Nets, who were playing a second night of a back-to-back. The Bulls lost a rough one to the Hornets. The Hornets had Gordon Hayward. They're a little bit different when Gordon Hayward plays. The Cavaliers beat the Rockets, and then the Mavericks lost Luka Doncic early in the game, and that might have an effect on the All-Star game if it's a serious ankle injury and he misses a significant amount of time. But Luka left the game. Despite that, the Mavericks defeated the Phoenix Suns. So the Mavericks move 2 games over 500. The Suns fall back to 25-25. And then finally, the Clippers win by a lot. They blow out the Spurs. And the Clippers now looking pretty solid recently. They have the longest win streak in the Western Conference at 4. They have tied themselves in the standings with the Pelicans. The Pelicans continue to struggle badly, although they recently got Brandon Ingram back, and maybe they will get healthy sometime in the near future. A bit of business before we get to Katie. If you don't know, Fast Break Breakfast is available on YouTube, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's a video podcast as well. Also, Grits and Grinds, my Grizzlies podcast, is available on YouTube. Do me the favor of subscribing to both of those channels, the Fast Break Breakfast YouTube channel and the Grits and Grinds YouTube channel. Also on social media, stay connected by following me at Fast Break Break, and stay connected with the Grizzlies by following them at MimGrizz and at Grind City Media. Do that across all social channels, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That way you will be first to see breaking news. Also, there's one-of-a-kind content and all the perspectives you won't find anywhere else. All right, now let's talk with Katie Heindl. Joined right now by Katie Heindl. Katie, good morning. How's it going?
Good morning, Keith. It's going well.
That's good. Coffee. Yeah, what kind of coffee is your jam?
Oh, like how do I make it?
I don't know. A brand? How do you make it? It's like a French press?
Just it's a French press. Yeah, I did
a
French press.
Fancy.
Grind my own beans though.
Amazing.
In the summer I'm doing iced. I'll put a batch together. I'll make a French press and then refrigerate it. But I'll begrudgingly go hot in the wintertime.
Are you supposed to, are coffee snobs, I'm not saying you're a coffee snob, but do coffee snobs have very strong opinions about how you grind your beans? Are you supposed to like hand grind them, or are you allowed to use like an electrical plug-in grinder?
I hope I am. I've got this like really janky electrical grinder where the tab like snapped off and you have to like fit it in every time and press it down, because without the tab you can't press the grinder. So,
I like that.
Yeah, but I really like it, so I don't want a new one.
I had a Plymouth Neon, which is a car where the tab broke off, which I'm calling the tab the key. The key broke off in the ignition. And I had to start. I usually started with a spoon because anything would turn it, because the key was in there. It just needed a little something that would fit in the key, the remaining opening to just turn the ignition, the crank. And so I had a spoon that I left in a cup holder, and that's how I started my car.
How'd you lock the door?
Here's the thing. I never locked my door, and I prayed someone would steal the car. That was...
You should have let word get around. Like, you could start this car with a spoon.
Yeah, this car doesn't need a key. The key is stuck in there. Anything will start it. This car had a hole in the roof, and when it rained, the floorboards would fill up with water. I lived like a king in my 20s, and I regret nothing.
Ship. Yeah.
I don't know. Is it? I think ships have places where the water can get out. But I did have to bail it like a rowboat, like a cartoon rowboat. Yeah. I would get like a big, like Route 44 cup, and scoop out the water from the floorboard before driving it. I was a catch. Jeez. Let me tell you. People are like, what's that guy got going on? I want to be with him.
Starting your car with your spoon, driving it down the street, bailing it out the window.
It smelled terribly, Katie.
Yeah,
it was not. I think I eventually donated it to NPR for like a $250 tax write-off or something.
That's nice of you. It's generous.
Was it? I don't. Yeah. Maybe someone would have given me more money. I was like, maybe this will save me money. And they were like, $250 on your tax write-offs. And I'm like, I don't think I make enough for that to matter. I don't think my income is high enough where I receive any benefit. Oh, U.S. tax laws. Katie, did you have any more breakfast besides your coffee before we get into some maybe basketball talk, maybe some NBA player popularity talk? Yeah, what's your breakfast?
For you to ask the question, Keith. I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count because I feel like I always eat the same thing when I'm coming on the show. You do?
This is embarrassing of me. Now I've forgotten. I can't keep my guests separate. Are you like steel cut oats or something weird?
No,
a parfait?
No. Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, what? Yogurt, it is
yogurt and fruit, granola.
I feel
good. You should.
I was panicked. I had no idea what your breakfast was, but I guess by guessing it,
I feel kind of flattered that you thought like steel cut oats.
I think that's Kelly Dwyer.
Yeah,
cutting his own.
We're all in
cutting his own.
So yeah, I feel like that's what you have. But because I knew I was coming on the show, I want to switch it up a little bit. So good. I also had some fresh fruit. I had some pineapple, some watermelon chunks, a little bit of honeydew. Not very good this time of year.
That's a fancy breakfast though.
Just trying to get my nutrients in, and I had my vitamin D drop supplements.
What was going in your eyes?
No, you have to drop. You look insane when you take them because the dropper specifies 1 drop is the adult dose.
Yeah.
So you have your head thrown back doing the drop, panicking in case two drops.
Yeah. What happens if 2 go?
I don't know.
I purge?
You have to put yourself in a dark room. You can't get any sunlight.
There's a phone number to call? You should call the phone. You should be like, hey, I took 2 drops.
I took 2. What's going to happen?
What's going to happen? My heart's racing. No one needs this much vitamin
D. I feel too good in the winter time.
The NBA All-Star ballots or the starters were named. I mean, I wanted to talk to you about the Raptors and like their weird tailspin and maybe they're going to trade stuff. But I feel like since we finally got the NBA starters released and we had the balloting, the voting, the results of how the players and media voted, and it's very interesting. And I feel like you have a good pulse. And this is probably not accurate or based on anything true. Maybe it's based on just your basketball feelings, your summer vacation watch, all these things. I feel like you have a pulse on maybe, at least better than I do, on how players feel about each other. So I want to look at the player voting for these all-star spots, and I want to draw some conclusions about which players are liked and disliked. And I think I've already drawn some, but so maybe I just want a little backup from you. Before we start, are there any that jumped out to you? Did you see any of the results that you were like, oh, that's kind of interesting? I would have thought. I
have to make like a dumb admission.
Yeah.
I was like a bit angry for 5 seconds because I was like, I thought they were doing this all live, but obviously they're not picking the whole team.
Oh, I guess, live. They're doing.
I was like Shaq. Did you see Shaq?
No, I didn't.
When they like announced that and Shaq was like, how are they going to fly to Salt Lake City if they like, how fast can they get there? Because he thought they'd get picked and then they'd have to go to Utah.
Yeah, he did. The game's right now.
And they were like, Shaq, they'll all be there already.
That's
it was
amazing.
Like, oh, so I felt a bit like Shaq.
But I mean, when are they doing again, this is my ignorance. Probably everyone listening knows this. They are doing the draft for the 2 teams. They're doing that in Salt Lake City. Like they're waiting until pretty late. Or are they doing it virtually?
No, they're not doing it virtually this year. They're going to do it before the game.
Oh,
so the captains will pick.
How are we supposed to bet on the game though, Katie? What about the league's gambling partners?
That's actually an interesting question. I wonder how they incentivize them. Can you do a bet later? Or maybe that's why they released.
You can. They got to give us at least like 2 hours for people to get their wagers in.
But maybe that's why they released the starters. Maybe they were going to do it all my way, the chaotic way, pick everybody in person at the event. But maybe the big betting was like, you got to give us the starters.
Big bet.
Yeah.
So the captains are Giannis and LeBron again, because they're the top vote getters. This is a thing I've gotten real obsessed about, and I might be thinking about this incorrectly. I might be incorrect in my logic here, but it doesn't make sense to me that you just take the raw total vote getter, because there are more votes cast for the front court because there's 3 front court spots. There's only 2 backcourt spots. So it seems like Steph Curry, he received, this is my math, he received 2.9 million votes per available slot.
Jeez.
LeBron only received under 2.5 million votes per available slot. It seems like Steph Curry should be a captain because there's fewer votes available. It's not an even playing field. You're saying a lot.
LeBron's washed.
I'm honestly, the way you're doing it feels like you're just kind of placate me. Like this is a stupid thing that you're saying, and I wish.
You know what I was thinking of though? I was like, it's gonna be sad, and I was wondering, is this gonna happen at some point in his career? Like, what will be the first things to leave LeBron? And I was wondering if one of the first things will be him not being a captain in the All-Star game anymore. And when that first happens, it's gonna feel a bit weird and kind of sad.
I like be gracious. I like LeBron being a captain because he's obviously top 2 player of all time. And he's the best player that I've seen the most of in my entire life. And he's a superstar. And it seems right that if the NBA is like, hey, best players pick teams, who's captain? Well, clearly LeBron's captain. That makes sense to me. But if we're doing it by this vote thing, we're like a top vote getter. It's like, well, it's really going to be hard for a guard ever to win this. Actually, the East vote, if you break it down by per position, so I'm dividing Giannis's votes by 3 and Kyrie's votes by 2. Nail biter. I'm talking about a runoff. Incredibly close. It ends up that Giannis wins by about 30,000 votes. So
if you want to talk about like vibes and who gets along with who, I feel like if Kyrie was a captain, that would make for very interesting live selection.
Yes.
It would be. And that's the reason I think I'm kind of with you. If maybe we could switch it up. I don't want to see Giannis and LeBron as captains next year is what I'm saying, because I feel like different. If we're going to keep the live, like not live or just like pre-picking by the captains, it's nice to switch it up because you get to see a little bit like, okay, like who's going for who first.
Well, now we got to figure out, now someone has to go back through the past few All-Star drafts and figure out, all right, Giannis really doesn't like this guy, or, like who's friends with whom.
Seems like a good basketball feelings assignment.
Absolutely. I commission you, Katie. Please do that. So in the East, in the front court, the player vote essentially matched the media vote, the fan vote. It wasn't controversial. The only controversy was one of the guys, Giannis, KD, Embiid, and Tatum. One of them couldn't start. But as far as the rest of the player voting, here's the thing that jumped out the most to me. This is the order of the player vote. Giannis, KD, Embiid, Tatum, great. 5th is Bam Adebayo, all right. 6th, Pascal Siakam. 7th, Jimmy Butler. This is all great. 8th, we have a tie, Jarrett Allen and Paolo Banchero. So Paolo Banchero, feel, to my mind, extremely popular, relatively. And then 10th and 11th. 10th is Julius Randle. Okay, makes sense. 11th, Bojan Bogdanovic. Is he locking down the European player vote? I found that very, like, that's ahead of Evan Mobley, ahead of Porzingis, ahead of Kuzma, ahead of a bunch of other guys. Miles Turner, way down in the player. Do players hate Miles Turner?
I feel like he seems like a pretty likable and well-liked guy. The only thing I was going to say is maybe they don't like him because they think he's a nerd, but then that doesn't explain Jarrett Allen so high. But Jarrett Allen is just a wonderful.
No, he is
human.
Charismatic and lovely.
Yeah.
I mean, he just
so kind.
He just like you see him on TV. I've never been around Jarrett Allen. I see him on TV. And
you don't want to. It's hard to control yourself. Great.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. No, he seems wonderful. He talked about, what did he just read? Oh, I think I just saw him. He just announced he read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah. And
they were like, "Did you like it?" He's like, "Yeah, it's great. Of course, anyone who's read it, it's great.
Great book. Great book."
So, I thought Miles Turner was weirdly low.
That is kind of low.
Kevin Love.
That might be like the Pacers effect. I feel like sometimes when guys are on teams for a long time,
okay,
and they're always like getting talked about. Maybe there's like some subconscious, not animosity, but just like relegation.
So Kevin Love finished actually ahead of Miles Turner. He was tied for 17th with Brooke Lopez and OG Anunoby. It's just a recognition of your vets.
He's getting just like the popular, the vet vote.
So all right, so nothing in the East front court, nothing that controversial. Again, Bojan pretty popular. I thought Miles Turner surprisingly unpopular, and Paolo Banchero ranking really high. In the East guards, this is more interesting because it wasn't a consensus of thought. The media, their vote, they voted for 9 guys. 9 guys received votes from the media: Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Halliburton, James Harden, DeMar DeRozan, Darius Garland, Jalen Brunson, Drew Holiday, and Trae Young. The player vote, kind of in that order. Notably, DeMar DeRozan much more popular among players than the media. And then I thought Trae Young was ranked very low in the Eastern Conference among players. They had him 12th behind Zach LaVine, Drew Holiday, LaMelo Ball, Jalen Brunson, Darius Garland, Halliburton, and then the other like main guys.
Doesn't surprise me, Keith.
Personality-wise?
Yes.
Because he too much trash talking? Is it just rubs people the wrong way?
I mean, players are very perceptive. Like, this is their job, but they also understand like the chemistry stuff and the stuff that's going on. They've seen a lot of guys get sent out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
That
a lot of also coaches on the hot seat. Maybe that affects things.
And that also, players have other relationships with.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I've never talked to a player who's like outright trash talked Trae or Atlanta, but it does feel like when they leave, there's kind of this like something's off their shoulders.
Oh, interesting.
But I think that's also just clarity, right? I mean, you look at someone like Kevin Huerter, it's like clarity of role. You're going somewhere where there's a plan for you, and that probably feels much better.
Well, we're gonna mention Kevin Huerter in a little bit. He pops up in the Western Conference.
But the media, I have to say, the one thing that stuck out to me in the media vote for the East was just like how incredibly nerdy it is, because it wasn't Tatum first.
How incredibly Boston it is. Yeah. Tatum was first.
Michael Pina, we're looking at you. How many votes did you get? But I was kind of like, come on.
Also, among the guards in the player vote, so Trae Young and Tyler Hero were tied for 12th, and I was like, oh, okay.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll say it. It's like the 2 brats of the NBA right now. Right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
And I feel like that is almost like heartening to me in a way, because it shows that your feelings and opinions may be aligned with players that are like around them.
But also, those guys did finish right ahead of Bradley Beal and Fred VanVleet. VanVleet tied for 15th with Terry Rozier. Then clocking it at 17th, Derrick Rose among the players. So that's again like maybe a respected veteran. A lot of good feelings.
I guess so. I think the Fred thing is probably, again, Fred keeps a pretty. I can talk about that. Like Fred keeps a pretty small circle.
Yeah,
I feel like he's got. He's good friends with DeMar and Kyle. Obviously, that's like through the Raptors. He's got a couple other solids, like besties, I'd say, around the league, but I think he's just like keeps to himself more. And there's that relegation thing going on. I think people just don't think about Toronto. It's okay.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, OG and Scotty Barnes finished very, very low in the player vote as well for the front court. The final thing for East guards among the players, this is for all of our Sixers listeners. Tyrese Maxey and Ben Simmons received the same number of player votes, which I feel like
that's interesting.
It's kind of fun, kind of interesting. Let's move to the Western Conference, where
I like that.
Here's the thing. Obviously, the Warriors in the Western Conference get tons of fan votes. It's way high in all the fan votes.
Do they have BTS Army this year on their side?
I don't know.
The South Korean vote?
Yeah, I don't know.
We should look into that.
Maybe Austin Reeves for the Lakers did, because he finished real high in the fan vote. But if I look at these voting results from the players in the Western Conference, both front court and back court, I think my takeaway is the players are sick of the Warriors. The Warriors finished very low in all these votes. I covered the Grizzlies, and they're my favorite team, and I look at everything through a Grizzlies perspective because I'm very biased. I don't try to maintain any objectivity. But it feels like lots of people, I get this on social media, they're like, people are done with the Grizzlies. Like, they're over them. And they're cheering. It feels now like, everyone's cheering against Desmond Bain. They're cheering against, everyone hates Dylan Brooks. I look at these player votes. Maybe my Grizzlies aren't as unpopular as I thought. Here's the takeaway. So let's do the same format. We'll start with the front court player vote, media vote, very, very lockstep, nothing controversial. Jokic, LeBron. I mean, there's some, I guess you could get in get all worked up over Sabonis or Markkanen or Zion or Anthony Davis. I thought it was notable that Anthony Davis in the player vote finished 7th. Anthony Davis is going to start, but he's not going to start. Zion starts, but I thought that was interesting. But then Jeremy Grant 8th in the player vote. Jaren Jackson Jr. 9th. Steven Adams 10th, tied with Christian Wood. That kind of raised my eyebrow. I got to scroll all the way down to 19th to find Andrew Wiggins, who's tied with, this made my heart sing, tied with Kyle Anderson, one of my favorite guys in the NBA. So is there anything about that you find surprising at all? I mean, it's not that wild. I thought Wiggins was real low as far as where he finished.
Board. Yeah, Wiggins is low. But for the player vote, that kind of makes sense to me.
He's below Gobert. Okay.
That's
Gobert's
weird,
16th.
right? That's kind of weird.
Everyone thinks Gobert's unpopular or something.
Yeah.
Gobert finished 16th. Draymond just finished right ahead of Gobert. It was Draymond, Kawhi, 14, 15, Gobert, 16. And then right ahead of, Dylan Brooks, 17th. Dylan Brooks received more player votes than Aaron Gordon, or he tied with Aaron Gordon, but more than Andrew Wiggins, more than, DeAndre Ayton. By the way, DeAndre Ayton received a media vote, one of 7 frontcourt players to receive a media vote. That is odd.
That just feels like ticking boxes, right? That's like going franchise to franchise and being like, who should we? You know, that's kind of what that feels like to me. The West is a bit more interesting, I'd say, in terms of like the player dynamics that we want to extract from this vote. I mean, the Draymond being low doesn't surprise me. The Warriors being kind of unpopular doesn't surprise me. I feel like there's probably also an understanding of like, you guys have been there so many times.
But like we've seen this. I felt like in the Eastern Conference, we saw this like recognize great players who are later in their career in Kevin Love and Derrick Rose. And now if I move to the West guards, and this has all been building up to this one thing, Klay Thompson.
Who is he?
He received 4 total player votes.
What?
He's 25th among the Western Conference.
That's kind of shocking
guards.
to me.
I think they're sick of Klay Thompson being mean to the Grizzlies. Dylan Brooks received 17 player votes. Klay Thompson received 4. Klay Thompson's actually still good where Kevin Love and Derrick Rose are not. Klay Thompson's still scoring 20 points a night, and players are like, nope, not voting for that guy.
Klay was well liked. Is there some kind of agenda against him? People are like, he's on his boat too much. We hate boats. I don't know. That's very strange.
Way behind Desmond Bane in the player vote.
I mean, Bane
behind Jose Alvarado.
Seems like a likable
behind
guy.
Kevin Herter.
Again, seems like
Herter?
a very likable.
Am I supposed to go
It's Herter. You got it.
Just Herter?
Herter.
Hort?
How else? It's not Hoarder.
I feel like, is it HW pronounced Herter?
HU.
Like whom?
Hoarder.
Or
I guess you could.
Like there's a difference between hurt and who. Right? The H sounds
You're kind of like doing something in the back of your throat with the U, but it's not Germanic.
I'm no orator, but I feel like there is a pronunciation subtlety.
I'd say our orator is your job, Keith. So
and I'm terrible at it. It's unbelievable how bad I am at speaking.
The West is weird, right?
I guess there's
weird. More egos there. There's like bigger guys there, more egos, probably a little bit more, I don't know, touchiness, latent leftover feelings from bad things. I mean, I was going to say like it might be a case where the most neutral gets the most votes, but then Kawhi is right in the middle. He's pure neutral.
The West guard votes, the top 4, Luka, Steph, Ja, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's the same. Those are the only 4 players who received media votes. Then we have Dame Lillard and De'Aaron Fox tied among the players at 5th. Devin Booker 7th. Anthony Edwards 8th. All this seems normal, not controversial. Desmond Bane is 9th, tied for 9th with Spencer Dinwiddie. Maybe Spencer Dinwiddie, a little bit popular. That seems a tiny bit high.
I'm surprised because I feel like people might be mad at him because he took a lot of money from them for crypto. an NFT. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's talking people
a
into.
little bitterness over some crypto investments.
You lost me some money on an ape, you know?
That's a good point. And then we get Anthony Simons, Josh Giddey.
Not surprising.
D'Angelo Russell, 14th. Now we start getting some weird ones. The 15th, we have 3 players tied. Jose Alvarado, which again is an eyebrow raiser. He seems fun, seems likable, so maybe he's liked. Jordan Clarkson, Jamal Murray there, and then we get Chris Paul and Kevin Huerter, and then as you dig deeper down into it, you got Buddy Hield, Gary Trent. I switched my streams. I jumped over to the East.
Prophesizing, maybe.
Yeah, and then you cross over. You get Jordan Poole, you get Kevin Porter Jr., Kentavious Caldwell Pope. All of these people before you get down to Klay Thompson, who's tied with Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Ochai Agbaji.
Good for Nickeil.
Yeah. So I take away from this that people are done with Klay.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. I thought he's a nice guy to be around. I thought players like him.
They're like, he is weirdly obsessed with his Grizzlies team and he's got to quit. Why does he talk about him all the time? They don't like it.
Pretty sure he only talks about them when they ask him about them. No?
I don't know. Maybe. He's always telling me things I don't know about the Grizzlies. That's all I know. He's like, oh, this tweet happened. What? What are you talking about?
Oh, so he's got some notifications set up.
I think they have a guy who combs the internet for tweets and hands it to them. There's no way they find these on their own. There's no way that they've just gone about their natural day and found some of these things.
Yeah, some of them are deep, I bet.
They're mining for motivation.
What was I gonna say? I feel like you can tell where these drop into teammates voting for one person rather than like the NBA organizing in their voting structure.
Right.
Maybe they need to organize a little bit more.
Maybe you think the Warriors. So other teams have like a voting strategy where they're mobilizing. They're like, listen, guys, let's throw our weight behind Bojan Bogdanovic. Let's just do it. He's been great for us. He's been buying all our team dinners.
The Euro vote, as you said.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the voting blocks, much like the K-pop. Like this is a little aberration on the results. Like, it's a little high. And so maybe the Warriors, they're so done. Like, we guys have all been all-stars. We're not organizing my vote. This year, I'm throwing my weight behind Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I just want to give him a little bit of recognition. So
yeah, I feel like there's definitely like a glancing over, like, nope, when they see a Warriors player name there, just like, forget it. What I was going to say was, I don't mean prank in a mean way. I would love to see like a prank vote where there's just like someone who's so well liked, but is not going to make it into the All-Star game, but like well liked by their peers, that they vote for that person to get in the game.
I'm trying to find who would be like the lowest. I mean, honestly, Kyle Anderson racking up like 8 votes just makes me really happy. I mean, Alvarado getting 9, impressive. I like that. Patrick Beverley, he received 2. Good job, Patrick Beverley.
Surprising.
More
than I would have expected.
Before we get you out of here, Katie, let's talk real briefly about the Toronto Raptors, who are at a weird spot. They are underperforming their expectations, and with the trade deadline approaching, it seems like they could maybe do a lot of things or also do very little things. What's going on with the Raptors in brief, and then what do you think is the best plan forward for them?
At first I thought, this isn't like a big existential problem, but now, and that was 2 months ago. And then they kind of continued this downward slide. And I feel like it is something existential, right? On paper, it's the same team. There's a lot of reasons there's no reasons why they shouldn't be working compared to the team that they were last season, especially because you assume there's like much more experience under like Scotty Barnes' belt, Gary Trent Jr., Precious Achiuwa, the guys that they recently brought on, but it hasn't been that way. I don't know what's going to happen. I will say that I am 100% on the fence in terms of, will they do anything? Like the front office isn't really one to rush, but I also think they can be quite cutthroat when they realize that the temperature is sort of in their favor, right? And you've got pretty much every team circling around OG Anunoby. Fred just fired his representation. I saw today he just signed with Clutch. So it's 4 Raptors that now are with Clutch. So that to me signals like he wasn't happy with the deals that his agent and the team were sort of talking about, and he wants to start from scratch.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means he's at the door. His contract is up this summer. The Raptors, I suppose it would be smarter for them to do something with him now than wait for him to leave for nothing in the summer. Gary Trent Jr., his name has been floated a lot. To me, that doesn't really make sense because you're going to trade away your only like shooter. That's what you brought him on for. The Raptors shooting is horrendous this season.
Right. Yeah.
Some of that's been like droughts, and maybe presumably that comes back, like with someone like Fred or OG, even with Scotty. Precious is back. They look really good against the Kings the other night, but I do feel like that's the Raptors ceiling this season. And so like with that in mind, I'm kind of like, what are you trading for? Right? Like you're trading for, hopefully you get some good talent back that can get you how far in the playoffs? Probably only like a first round exit, which is what they were looking at anyway. If they were playing.
Yeah. I mean, if they make a move, my assumption is if they make a move, that just says that's a full embrace of, we definitely don't want to make the playoffs. We want to throw our hat in the ring of the, we want to get our 7 to 12% shot at a top 4 pick. And that's why you would trade your possible only shooter with, Gary Trent Jr. if he can opt out of his deal. And then, like if he's going to, all right, so just if we can get anything for him.
And you get some picks back maybe.
Yeah. And with the Fred VanVleet thing, it does, like one of the teams that makes sense to me is if you could work out something with the Clippers, where it does seem like if maybe they have salaries they can match, they can send back whatever, Luke Kennard and Robert Covington. And like, for then it becomes like, what's the cost? Like, this is a guy who's beloved in Toronto and he's a good player, but like, is that worth like an okay player and like the 2028 first rounder that the Clippers can attach? And that's where that's where the calculus gets hard, I think, for front offices to be like I feel like they made the right decision with Kyle Lowry, like that. It worked out great.
Yeah. I think you had to honor his career and everything I think that he meant to the franchise. And, I don't think that was much of a head scratcher as to like why he left when he did. And the return of it, which was really nothing because Goran Dragic hated Toronto so much.
But I mean, you would rather have Precious, I think.
Yes.
Than still be paying Kyle Lowry
I totally forgot about Precious,
who
is actually one of my favorite players on this team. And like, look what's happened there. So that's great. But they have a lot of cap space. I was kind of intrigued to see. So that's why I'm kind of like, are they waiting for the summer to take a big swing when more you've ostensibly
who's
got
a free agent this
available.
Summer, right?
Who?
Dylan Brooks. Canadian homecoming. Come on.
It could be. It could be. But he loves being a Grizzly, Keith.
He does. He
loves it so much.
His only good game in the last 6 weeks was in Toronto.
Yeah, and he really talked.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's his thing.
I know. I love that about him.
That's why the players love him, Katie.
It's true. That's why he got so high in the player vote.
So many votes. Yeah.
I think they're in a bit of a predicament. There's definitely some tension with the team. I will say this is not that every team has to be best friends. They can definitely just be collegial, but I do think this is the first Raptors team in some time where there's this real sense that they don't really talk to each other. I'm sure some guys kind of hang out, but there's something sort of missing. Maybe that's because so much has been up in the air for such a long time now that's going to wear on guys. But there is a feeling. I do feel like some people want out, not because it's so toxic and so bad, but just maybe because there's no necessary plan for what's going to happen to so many guys who are at almost the exact same point in their careers, right? Which is the entire core of the team.
Can you poke holes in this joke I've been doing for a while?
Let's see.
I think I mentioned this to you before when you were on. My theory on Nick Nurse was there's no way this is going to last for people being around him. And again, I've never been around the guy. This is purely based on him bringing a guitar with him where he goes places and wearing his branded hats. He was a rookie coach wearing Nick Nurse hats. And I'm like, there's no way that guy's fun to be around. That's just my joke from afar. And now I look at hey, why is this team underperforming? Well, it's a cliche to always be well, maybe the coach is a problem. And now I'm that Nick Nurse thing is coming home to roost. He was given too much too soon, too much power. Now it's kind of wearing out, or he's burning out.
I mean, you're not way off base. I don't think that's such an outsized thing, like joke quote to make. I also look at things like they've lost a lot of assistant coaches in the last like 3 to 5 seasons, right? There's been a real talent drain. And I think you're seeing the effects of that and like some of their offensive deficiencies, like the half court's a mess. Things just like that's not, and I understand like Nick Nurse says that's not where their priority is as a team, their defensive team, sure. But like even that was kind of out the window for a while this season. So when both things aren't working, you do have to look at coaching and you do have to look at like who are you retaining? And then like if you can't go out and get players, like can you go out and get some coaches that will, help you freshen things up in there, add a little bit of pep and liveliness to the locker room.
It's also very anecdotal, but there was one game, I can't remember who they were playing, but they lost a close game where there was a timeout called on a 4-on-5. Like they had a fast break basically, and Nick Nurse called a timeout in the final 2 minutes to set up a play. Yeah. And then on the play they set up, there was a jump ball called, and Nick Nurse calls a timeout to challenge the jump ball. You can't challenge a jump ball. So he burned his final timeout on that. And
wasn't that the Knicks game? I feel like that was controversy.
Yeah, it was very recent. There was controversy where like maybe the officials could have given him a takesy backsy, where he's like, "Oh, okay, listen, I can't challenge it. Give me my timeout back." But the officials were like, "This game's been stopped for too long. You have to, But I was like, "You're a coach. How do you not know the rules and what you can challenge?" And that was like, this man overcoached at the end of that game, and it felt like a painful thing. Again, I don't watch every Raptors game.
No. But again, I think it's like a good tiny, you can take that example and expand it out over the team, right? There's a real lack of consistency with things, and coaching is certainly one of them. So I don't know that they're like, we're going to fire the coach, because I don't know how often that actually works. Yeah. But I do think in terms of like, what are you building here? Like what is your supporting staff? Who are the people who usually coach the players more? Like, what are they doing? And like, what's their MO? Because I don't really know what Nick Nurse's is all the time. That's fine. It's not up to me. But I also like, again, I really wouldn't be shocked if they don't do anything. So I'm not trying to get anybody's
right. Yeah. I mean, they could certainly. I mean, honestly, if they don't do anything, they still might end up pretty high in the lottery.
Yeah, so. Yeah. There's also,
and then you still have an option of keeping these good players, for whatever.
Or if they don't do anything, there's a chance that they end up exactly where they would have in the playoffs. Right? They could still get like the gap in the East isn't as big as it is in the West in terms of like the middle. Yeah. Teams are pulling away. But ostensibly, if they'd like turn it around a little bit, they could still wind up in the play-in or like a lower kind of playoff berth. So that's why I'm like, what are you going to do trades for if nothing drastically is going to change? Yeah,
that makes sense. Well, Katie, thanks a bunch. Always a pleasure talking with you. And I look forward to the next time you come on.
Thanks, buddy. Love doing NBA Gossip Girl with you.
Thanks, Katie.